Hey, I'm Matt Harris, and this is On Deck. Welcome. I'm here on what looks like the Lab Rat set, but it's actually something else. We've got a lot to talk about. It's been a while since I've done an On Deck, Shawnee. I'm here with Sean Carruthers of Lab Rats and of the new show that is shot on this set. We'll get to that one sec, but let's talk about what's in your hand. It's the iPhone 4. Now, Apple's had a lot of kind of publicity, good and bad, about the new iPhone 4. Specifically about the antenna. Now, you did a series about it. What's your take on the iPhone 4? Have they solved it? Has this rubber band around the edge? Are you sold? Are you going to get one?
Well, here's the idea. I'm not sure whether I'm going to get one because I've got the previous one, and it's not 100% different enough to justify me going out and buying a new one. For people that are one step back, I think you have the previous generation. It might be worthwhile, but apparently there's this issue. You touch the antenna right here when you're holding it, and apparently the bars disappear on that. And that's partly a software issue and partly just attenuating. Every phone does that when you do that, when you hit the antenna in the right place. So I think a lot of it was just a PR issue. I think they made a lot of sense when they were talking about every other phone doing this, but at the same time, it is still a potential real problem that they didn't do much by saying, hey, every other phone does the same thing. It's not us. We're cool.
Yeah. I mean, you're referring to the press conference earlier in the week, and I was following your tweets online. It was kind of like, it did really feel like hey, everyone's like this, passing the buck a little bit, right?
Yeah, kind of. It's just like people have real concerns about something, and when you go out and say, well, it's not really our fault, it isn't really a good PR move. It's just kind of, it is passing the buck, as you say.
Now beyond the antenna issues, you've done a whole series on it, kind of outlining it on butterscotch.com. Who would you recommend gets this phone at this point? Someone like me, I guess, who has a 3G, I guess, right?
3G. So if you've got not the last generation of the 3GS, but you have the previous one, it's maybe time to upgrade, especially if your contract allows you to upgrade at this point. The screen is really, really good. So if you do a lot of reading on the phone, I think even if you have the 3GS, it might be worth a look because it has iBooks application on it. It looks really nice. It's something called the Retina display, which is basically twice the resolution as the old phone. So I think it does definitely look really nice. And if you're into gaming of any sort, I think the gyroscope in here will definitely add to the ability of it to sense what you're doing when you're moving it around. So
you talk about the gyroscope, you talk about the Retina. Now, you also did an episode about that on Lab Rats a couple weeks back. So if you guys haven't seen that, go to butterscotch.com/Lab Rats. Now, speaking of Lab Rats and moving on to this new kind of set over here that Sean's kind of makeshift into, I guess, where you shoot your new kind of tutorial series. Tell us a bit about that.
Right, so we actually took the iPhone 4 series as a prototype of a new series we're looking at called How Do I? It's just like, how do I do this? It's a tutorial series, so we've got a bunch of tutorials on the site, but a lot of them are very screen grabby. You see what's going on people's screens. We thought, well, we got a lot of tutorials that we can do that actually have stuff like the iPhone in your hand or, say, a computer case you want to change a hard drive. So we want to actually show that with a camera, get in with a screwdriver and start doing things and show people how to do that rather than just showing a bunch of still photographs of same things.
Now, you talk about photographs as well. You did the first series after the iPhone 4, I guess, is the SLR, right? The demystifying SLR?
Yeah, so we did a 5-part series on demystifying how an SLR works, so an overview of the camera itself, and then some of the modes that you would use with an SLR, which are different than you would use necessarily on a point and shoot.
Right, yeah, of course.
So just how to use each of those modes and what they all mean.
Okay, so new shows including How Do I and also Status Update. I don't know if you Butterscotchers have noticed, but there's a new show every Wednesday hosted by Jay Goldman, formerly of Mr. Mobile. But we've transitioned him into a new show, called Status Update. And Sean, of course, is the producer and editor of that. What's Status Update all about? Well,
Status Update is sort of moving towards Jay's true passion. So we did about 75 Mr. Mobiles, and they were good. Jay's into mobile, but he's more into social media. This is his background. He works at a company called Ripple, where they deal with social media.
Right.
And so we figured, let's get Jay into an area where he's really doing what he wants to do and talking about the things that he really is working with day in and day out, rather than mobile, which he has a phone, but it wasn't necessarily his passion like social media. So he's talking about Twitter, he's talking about Facebook, and not just like the how to use it, because we do that with the tutorials, but a little bit of backstory on how some of these things came to be, little things you may not know about these things, like why 140 characters on Twitter.
I was actually interested to find out that in episode 1, I know the secret as to why it's 140 characters, but you guys have to check it out at butterscotch.com.
Yeah, so a lot more mechanical things like that, and things that you'll go, I did not know that, hopefully.
So in my heart, he'll always be Mr. Mobile. I'm interested to get what his thoughts are about the iPhone 4. As well, I'm interested in getting his thoughts about Status Update and social networking. So we'll have Jay on in a later show of On Deck talking about his new show and the iPhone 4. Sean, you are on Lab Rats as well as How Do I? Coming up Monday, you have 3D displays, I believe.
Right, so we covered 3D cameras on the previous week's episode, so upcoming on Monday, we're going to talk about actually displaying that and what you need to do to get 3D into your living room.
I was there for that shoot, and the 3D kind of experience was really, really cool. I wasn't really sold on it until, as you'll see in the episode, until you actually see it, you don't really know what it feels like, but I was impressed by the Panasonic folks.
Yeah, I thought it was a lot better than I was expecting. And as I mentioned at the end of the episode, I do get a little bit queasy sometimes with 3D technologies. Like I went to the driver's licensing office in Vancouver to get my license done, and I looked and they had this simulated 3D, and I was like, But this is actually a lot better than that.
A lot better than that. So you have to check that out. 5 o'clock Eastern on Monday. Sean, thanks for being on deck. I'm Matt Harris. This has been On Deck. For everything we've spoken about, go to butterscotch.com. I'll see you guys next week.